Okay, so it was really very interesting to do this. The frost took exactly the same 25 passes on the 800 grit Chaucer to get it a burr after being dulled the way I showed you on the 50 grit diamond. The Victorinox, oops, I had this backwards. The Victorinox was the fastest, and it took exactly 20, a few less than the Frost. So that was interesting. The other thing I will say is they both felt really great when I was doing it. You could really feel your contact with the stone, and you could just almost feel it was getting sharpened. The F-Dick, it had a slight variance, but very consistent still, between 30 and 35 passes on the 800 grit Chaucer to get a burr up after being dulled on the 50 grit diamond. Then the next one was the Inox, and it took 40 passes to get it from the 50 grit diamond to having a burr on the 800 using the 800 Chaucer. And then the worst of them was the Victory. It took 40 to 45 passes. So it was really slow. You could not, on any of these three, you did not have as much feel of the stone really biting into your knife. That may translate to edge retention not being as good. I don't know about that, but I will say they're really pleasant to sharpen, and that's probably about as important as anything. I did do, and I only did this once, I dulled it on a softer 600 grit stone just to see on one round how much longer or less long it would take. And the Victorinox, when I dulled it on the soft stone, took 5 passes less to get to sharp. The Frost took 7 passes less to get to sharp. And the F-Dick took over 10 passes, 10 to 15 passes less to get sharp after being dulled on the soft stone. And the Victory went clear down to 22 passes, so it took 18 at least passes less to get sharp after being dulled on the softer stone. And the Victory dropped the most. It only took 22 passes after being that's 23 passes less after being dulled on the softer 600 grit stone. So it would indicate, maybe, these are just numbers and there's a lot more to it than that, but it might be an indication that the ones that do sharpen the easiest may also have less edge retention, because when you put them on a stone that's going to have less effect, these knives had less effect on them. So anyway, that's the numbers. I thought it would be interesting to do. I'm going to go ahead and do some sharpness tests. I'm going to finish the edge off a little bit, not very much. It'll all be consistent, and then we'll compare their sharpness. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to finish off the edges, and we'll see if they're even at all sharp. I'm going to do as little as possible, as minimal as I can, and then we'll see which one then is getting sharpest doing what we've done. This is what I'm going to do to all of them. It's going to be 1, 2, just straight back and forth each time, 3, 4, I think I'll go to 6, 5, 6. And then I'm going to steal them, and 7, 8. That's it. Okay, we're going to do a simple paper cut test to try to get an approximation of sharpness. Let me start off by saying this method that I've used to sharpen these knives is not how I sharpen my knives. It is not going to get them terribly sharp. That is not the objective. It's just to compare how sharp they are in the same conditions. So we'll see if we can learn anything. I'm going to grab a piece of paper. And so I'm going to make a few cuts, starting here with the Victorinox. And so there's 3 cuts with the Victorinox. That's not too bad. Here's the Frost. Ooh. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's quite a bit sharper. Took less force to go through the paper. I don't know why that is for sure. I'm going to do this several times to see if we get the same result, and maybe it's the knife, or maybe it's... That way we can reduce the chance of it being human error. Here's the F-Dick. Okay, not sharp. Again, I'm going to test this a few more times. If I get a different result on that, I'll show you. Here's the Inox. Pretty good. Actually, really pretty good. I can curve it. That actually is probably sharper than any of the others. And now we'll do the Victory knife. Not as sharp. Definitely, if I try to curve, it just folds the paper. Okay, I'm going to do this several times off camera and see if I get a similar result. If I get a different result, I will record it. Okay, I took these knives after I steeled them and messed around with them. I laid the edge over intentionally on the cutting board and different stuff, doing it with it. And after laying it over several times and then steeling it back with only a polished steel, the same number of times, same number of strokes on the steel, everything being the same. And I just thought it'd be interesting to look at the difference in them in their response to the polishing steel. This is the Victorinox, as you can see, still sharp, responded very well. Same with the, look at that, the Frost, same with the Victory. Now, I was talking earlier about how the F-Dick does not respond as well to the polishing steel. And see, it is just not able to do the same thing. This surprised me a little bit, but also the Inox did the same thing. It's dull. I mean, they're not dull, the edges are laid over, but they do not go back up very easily. This one's not as bad, but they don't go back up very easily on the polishing steel. A polishing steel is just smooth, and so it's not as aggressive. So I just thought that'd be interesting to look at. I took the same knives, put them on a regular cut steel, just so I could show that the edge is still there. It was just laid over and wouldn't straighten back up on the polished steel. And as you can see, sharp again. They're really not very sharp, but the edge is back. Not quite as good maybe, but pretty darn good. Well, maybe not. Okay, it's making a liar out of me. The F-Dick steel, my biggest complaint about it is it's not, there we go, as responsive to a steel as the other knives. That's my only complaint about it. Otherwise, it's a great knife. It is a good knife, but as you can see, there is a difference that way. They all basically seem to be close to the same as far as what their edge did. It took longer on some knives. And then these were far more responsive to a polished steel than these two. That's only information.